Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Neil, Refracted Curvature, Eli, the Adam Meakin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, good morning.
Hello,
Good
hello,
afternoon.
hello. Where we going today?
To hell.
I would say that you
Kind of exciting, huh?
go back to the. If I were you, I would go back to the body and give them a chance to make a decision, any way that you can.
So in the pre-show, we were discussing angles from hell and whether or not it's sacrilegious / outright disgrace that someone like Danny Falkner should be teaching a congregation about measuring physical angles capable of measurement from the surface with respect to the centre of a sphere Earth, aka in hell. Now, I think it is flat out truth that happened to just recently, in the last 24 hours, release a video showing the kind of thing that I try and steer people away from when I talk about how Earth is physically measured. That would be flat. And this is the objection that we have here. But yet, within the flat Earth arena, we will have compadres, if you will, talking about how various different musical artists and film artists have sold their soul to Satan. Now, in my humble opinion, these subjective ideas of whether or not the ramblings of musicians when they talk about their selling of their own soul to the devil has any bearing on the nature of reality when it comes to things we can prove. That would be to say it is demonstrably shown that Earth is provably, measurably, observably, navigatably flat. Well, those are things that are true and easy to demonstrate. Therefore, the subjective realm of measuring angles from hell seems like something we should call out when we do actually acquire these angles that we use for mapping the territory off a flat plane. Those are the facts of the matter. Therefore, when some Christian comes along and starts teaching a congregation that no, these angles that are capable of measurement and are measured on the surface, you have to treat them as though you're in the middle of hell for them to functionally operate on the equatorial plane inside a globe. What do you know? And like I say, that's generated quite a heated discussion, to the point where our very own righteous force has been chewed out as being a weak Christian, nay, lukewarm, end quote. So, only appropriate that we start with the following housekeeping question. Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
What about along a curved baseline as well?
Say again?
If they're trying to say that there can be a measurement obtained from, the center of Earth, they'd still have that problem of following a curved path and having a compound angle as a result of following a curved path, because you would have to roll your Earth back. So you would be, if you're in, the center of Earth, but it's absurd, right? That's not happening. However, to get to the next location, they'd have to spin the Earth to have the star directly under the Earth at that location. If there was any steps at all, because the sphere is from the center out, you'd be rolling the Earth to another location.
You're half right. That is what they've done. They've taken what is essentially an angle measurement through a protractor, but they've said that the globe is the protractor. Therefore, if you're taking something from your zenith, and we'll call that, 90 versus 91, yeah? Well, that degree difference can be described from the center of Earth as though you rotate the protractor 1 degree. And that's precisely what they say, because you're moving over the curved surface. It's like, yeah, but that's not in reality what you're doing when you get the measurement of the 1 degree. It's 1 degree with respect to the flat surface that you're standing upon. not twisting of a globe Earth that actually
Oh
is the
yeah,
protractor.
totally.
That's why they can
Okay.
get away with saying 1 degree
All
for
right.
every 60 nautical miles because it's moving around the curve of the surface. It's like, no, you think you're moving around the curve of the protractor we take the measurement with, and that protractor is a globe Earth. That's what they think. That's how they've been deceived.
Okay. Oh yeah, they're deceived for sure.
Can you follow
All right.
Can you follow what I'm
I see
describing,
what you
though?
mean, Nathan.
Can you follow what I'm describing when I describe
Yes.
the rotation of Earth as a protractor sat on the equatorial plane to describe 1 degree for 60 nautical miles? Then that for the globe Earther is you twisting the globe Earth 1 degree as opposed to measuring a 1 degree change on a flat plane, which is what we actually do. You follow my transposition from globe protractor, yeah?
Yep. Yes. Yep. Got it.
Okay. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
If the stars are really far away, the container would have to be see-through.
I was just going to say, ask Whitson.
Sorry, that was nonsense, Waffle. What?
Oh, I've been thinking about your all's pseudo debate the other day, and to claim the stars are really far away outside of the container, you have to claim that the container is see-through.
Translucent?
Yeah.
I believe that.
I like to find out what people believe. I'm really keen on that. Like I care.
I was very specific with the word belief.
Yeah, people are entitled to their beliefs, Eli, and you can keep them.
Well, the thing is, it's a positive claim about the physical and natural world. That's where it becomes a problem, really.
Well, according to scripture, it kind of sounds like a see-through translucent dome. Right, Eli?
But he's right, though. Logically, he's right.
Okay.
Of course, that all falls apart whenever you measure an angle to the star near the horizon and you realize that, the concepts of geometry don't apply to them.
So the discussion we're talking about came out in its entirety yesterday on my second channel. So if you want to subscribe, you can see the most recent video released from yesterday evening is the uncut and after show from, I think it was Monday. Was it Monday? We went into Earth discussions, Earth Awakenings, my bad. That was Monday, wasn't it? Anyway, the full version came out yesterday. Check it out on my second channel, link below.
Yeah, but the thing they can check out is how we went over it yesterday with QE. That was hysterical.
Did you go over it then?
Yeah, we did. He is gonna do a what do you call it on it? A treatment. With everyone present.
When did you do this? Just like back office stuff?
Yeah, after you left and we were still hanging out, we started talking about it, and I think Brian went and got it, and immediately QE was hot.
Oh, so you played a bit through with QE. Okay.
What's that?
You played a bit through with QE.
Oh yeah.
Oh well, I look forward to him covering it.
And the protest wasn't towards you; it was after John said it. Refracted. That's when Whitsitt piped up and said he wouldn't make that claim and mumbled some other stuff.
It said it was retarded to say that.
Yeah, that's one thing we got straight. He started with the retard first. I don't even know why he held you on that. You never even said it, unless repeating what he said.
You didn't offend him at all during that conversation. I thought I missed something when he said, this guy gets to come in here and call me names and insult me. I was like, what, did I miss something?
Yeah, he started it first. I listened to it 4 times. He was the one with the retarded statement or accusation first, name calling, if you want to call it. It was like a schoolyard. He called me retard first.
He does that. They do that. They just, because, they criticize, like, like old women. Like they remember something from before, and they apply that to the situation that they're having current. And it's like, bro, okay, yeah, we had our scuffles, we cursed and screamed, but right now none of that happened. Like we already agreed to talk right now, so what's all the beef?
Right. So do they repeat when we give them credit? Do they talk about that? We've been putting him on a little pedestal when he does the right thing and he hammers opponents. We give him all the credit in the world.
Man, I
How
don't
about
mind
5
his.
grand? You want to bet 5 grand?
I can tolerate all of that, right? So long as at the end of it, what we're trying to communicate gets through to him. I don't care if he objects to us. That's why we went in the second day, although he wasn't there. And we'll keep going back and we'll keep saying the same thing. Earth is measured flat. This is how the system works. And initially, ignorance leads someone like Whitsitt to push back against it. We've seen it dozens of times in the last 3 months, haven't we? So this is not a shock.
I've done it myself against Tent, so
Yeah.
I can't judge him for that.
Exactly. So this is the process. Don't worry about it. We can make Whitsitt our enemy because he's ignorant of what we've put him down. So were we when we first had it laid out to us by 10th. So what? That doesn't make him our enemy. We're there for a purpose. We're trying to get them to realise the strength of this argument. Like every time we go do the rounds with an argument that we've got that's extremely strong, 4 years later, they're all saying it, with zero acknowledgement of where it came from, of course. But that's fine also. If it takes 4 years for people to recognise that we've been told by our opponents for 10 years, yes, Earth is measured flat. Yes, we do build in it flat, but it's only because it's such a big sphere that it doesn't really matter. Yeah? We'll start recognising what our opponent's been telling us. Stop arguing with the apologetics for how big but measured and built on flat it is, and just recognise the built on flat it is bit. Because that's the fact of the matter. Now, it might take a year. I doubt it. It's so simple. It shouldn't be complex. It won't be like Black Swan understanding the intricacies of a Modus Tollens argument and the example being given with a comparison to a Karl Popper argument. That isn't necessary. It's just measured flat. What? No, it ain't. I can't believe my ears. That's too simple to be true. Yeah, you'd think so. But it ain't.
No.
That's just the way it is. And I don't think it'll take
No.
very long for people to start twigging and seeing the examples and going, I already have 5 of these examples where Earth's measured flat. And I've put them in front of Globers and spent 25 years arguing about how it's just because it's so big. And then that's the bit we argue about. How it's because they mitigate for how flat they've dealt with it and you've dealt with it in your example. But the argument becomes about their mitigation. Sod that. Just welcome them to flat Earth and go, so we all measure it flat then. Yeah, but it's only because it's so big. Oh, yeah, you're entitled to your belief. But built on flat then. Don't get much stronger than that. Whitsitt will get there.
Yeah, but Whitsitt's different. No. See, you're wrong. Whitsitt has an agenda. There's an ether agenda involved with this whole thing. That's why he's resisting. And I'm sure you caught on to it. That's why you brought it up 3 or 4 or 5 times.
I don't know how his
it's
ether belief
really,
fits
it's
into
really,
it. I don't see how it matters. But go on, Eli, sorry.
it's really more of an appeal to fallacious reasoning. So at any time, at any point, you can just reason fallaciously about whatever. In this case, it would happen to be ether. So it's like it's not really about the topic; it's more about the fallacious reasoning. Like when I called him out for arguing from ignorance, he just straight up denied it. Like if the root of the issue is never going to get addressed, then it's always going to be a problem.
Yeah, QE said it might have been a special pleading fallacy that we missed too. It's got to listen a little better. But with that whole geometry of the stars nonsense.
Yeah, what we were calling an argument from ignorance was special pleading. He's right.
Right, because what you don't know cannot contradict what you do know.
Yeah, that's special pleading in a nutshell. Yeah, well done, QE. Not even here and he's getting props.
All right, hear ye.
Morning,
Oh, he's
guys.
the general.
So it wasn't an argument from ignorance.
No, it is. That's a form of an argument from ignorance. It's a special pleading
It's
fallacy.
a form. Yo, he's good at that because it's like I'll be like, yo, like last week I was like, this look at the Mountain Daily, and he's like, yeah, that's just equivocation, and I'm like, oh, you're right.
So then it wasn't appeal to the future fallacy then at all.
There was also an
I was
appeal to the
totally
future.
wrong.
No, you definitely spotted that straight off the cuff as soon as you said it, Neil, and you were right. We're talking about multiple fallacy uses here. You know, there's plenty for all.
That's sad. If he's a multiple fallacy guy in one sentence, what the hell is going on?
Well, that's incredibly useful, isn't it? For us. Now, as long as we don't turn Whitsitt into an enemy for using fallacious reasoning, we've all done it. He becomes like our muse. Well, that's useful, isn't it?
Hey,
Mic check,
Nathan, can
mic check.
I give it a little thought?
Hold on, we hear you, Chocolate.
Phew.
What's up?
Chocolate then Lumpy. Go ahead, Chocolate.
Nah, just doing a mic check, saying good morning.
Yeah, I had to
What's
say
up?
hello. It just didn't make it through. Hello. Go ahead, Lumpy. Lumpy gas in a vacuum, ladies
Sorry,
and gentlemen.
my screen wasn't touch. I was touching my screen and I couldn't get. I have to
Well,
push
don't
the
do
top.
that.
So I was the protractor. There, if they were following a curve path based on a protractor, then the 90 would be screwed up. As
No,
far as I can.
With the protractor still working from the
imagine.
equatorial plane. You've got you on the equatorial plane in hell. We'll move to we'll transition to Danny Falkner in a minute. But no, when I say twisting the globe Earth, that's not you twisting the globe Earth with you on its surface, far from. It's you in the middle of the globe Earth with the globe Earth wrapped around you as the protractor. And then as you take the angle along the flat place line with you and 90 degree being, if it's a polar centric mapping that you're using to describe this, you've got the North Pole or Polaris at your zenith. Well, then you've got a line that measures outwards, and then the degrees that Polaris would drop from the angle measurement that you're going to take to it along that flat plane inside the globe. Well, you can simultaneously describe that as you moving Polaris about the protractor, aka twisting the globe Earth with all the protractor markings down it. But that's still you inside the protractor of the globe Earth, as opposed to on it trying to get angles from curves which you can't.
Right, 100% agree. Okay, all right. Well, we're not measuring from the center of Earth for sure. So, and there would be but anyway, I'm just trying to come up with a way that would be easy to image that there would be a problem with the geometry, even if you were to try to argue measuring from the center. And I think it's there, but I just want to try to communicate it. But anyway, I'll let you go.
No, there isn't really any problem as per se, unless someone on my panel is going to correct me. So long as you're describing it with respect to the equatorial plane and the globe wrapped around in that diagram is just taken to be a protractor, then no, it's just describing what we actually see in reality. The measurement of the angle to Polaris is what it is. How you depict it. It's like yesterday, some guy was saying, well, do you believe in the celestial sphere? I'm like, well, no. How you wrap that visually round in a system that you can put on a piece of paper isn't the same as having a parallel plane and a parallel sky for that to actually mechanically work in terms of how you mechanically measure the angle to it, at least. Well, that requires that the parallel plane is adhered to in terms of how it's functionally operating, with the lights moving over certain positions on a flat Earth. Well, there's no domes, there's no spheres, there's none of that. But that's how we just rationalize it so we can describe it to others. And within that rationalization, you've got a protractor being inserted as a globe Earth with the sphere of the heavens wrapped around that. You're like, well, none of those things really exist. The only thing that could actually be taken to have a physical place in reality would be the markings around the protractor that you could call the globe Earth when you look at your protractor that you hold in the form of a sextant, for example. That's the only transposition to reality that's got any curves or domes or anything like that. What we have in reality is a flat plane and a flat sky. That's it. That's what we actually have.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just expand just a moment. So if you were to have that angle measured, the long line of the angle called the, well, if it's not actually a triangle, but the long arm, if you're, say, Polaris is near the horizon, that long arm would need to be able to flip and create a rectangle. So that's why Nathan would say that they have to be parallel, because that's
You're talking
reality.
about the
That's how
co-angle.
the geometry
Yeah,
would have to work.
When you minus from 90,
Yep.
you're getting the co-angle, which is just the other triangle stacked on top of the first triangle. But yeah, in other words, you've then got a baseline in the sky to have that square. And
Yeah.
yes, that's correct. You're dealing with two parallel plane surfaces. One is running along the sky, and that's where you minus from 9 to get your co-angle. If you're going to get your 1 degree for every 60 nautical miles by timesing it by the angle, because that gives you the angle with respect to the GP position of the star, and the co-angle is the flat line along the sky. So yeah, you although you can depict it in a dome and depict it as a celestial sphere, North Pole centric, there is no such beast. That is a folly in the truest sense of the word. It's nice because you can depict it that way with your ideas of how you would see that star receding to the horizon by your perspective. But that isn't the world we live in. It just isn't.
No,
is-
perspective
there are
doesn't
no spheres.
exist.
There are no spheres or
just
domes, are
something
there?
used in art class.
But while
I
you
agree
can,
with you, Nathan, 100%.
yeah, what you see on the plane of what Chocolate's just described on the plane of the paper when you're drawing something is effectively two flat surfaces converging at the midpoint that we in art call the vanishing point. That's still two convert to your vision at least appearing to converge, but they aren't. They're two parallel lines, one representative of the ground, one representative of the sky. The vanishing point be the optical dissolution point that you can't distinguish the two any further. But for that methodology of drawing to exist, you have to first appreciate that what you're seeing receding into the distance is only optical resolution and its limitations within the skull of your head, as opposed to the way that the sky actually extends out in an infinite manner, same as the ground.
And horizontally, like if you were to look at railroad tracks and they were long enough and they may appear to join, however, they're not actually joining. Right?
Yeah.
That's the type of effect, horizontally and vertically.
Yeah, and the same is true for the sky and the ground. They may appear to converge, but they're not actually. The sky never touches the ground. Okay, so we've got a video to cover today, which has been supplied by Mush. Thank you very much. And I don't know if
Are you sure the sky never touches the ground?
Yes. Anything else? Did you have an example to contradict that, Neil, or?
Well, I'm saying if we believe that there's a not believe, we know that we're contained, right? So somewhere this containment has to meet the earth, doesn't it?
That's non sequitur.
No, he's right. By the basis of how we understand containment to function, yes.
Yeah, but what's that got to do with perspective?
Nothing. But on some scale, Neil's saying by logical inference, there must be the edge of a container for it to be a container. And he's right. What's your point, though?
Well, it's at some point, then that's got to be the sky meeting the ground somewhere.
Maybe.
The container is the sky now.
Yeah, we don't know what the container is,
Yeah,
Neil.
but what we're seeing, we it's not like we can claim we're seeing like the shape
Correct.
of the
I
sky.
take it back. Correct. I take it back. I can't prove it. Move on.
Okay, we'll do.
No, it's not that. It's not that. No, quite literally, just because we see the stars doesn't mean we're seeing the shape of the sky. Because then we'd all have mini domes, and that doesn't make sense.
Okay, so
I don't
please
think
let-
that's what his claim was.
just one sec, Lumpy.
Yeah, well,
Please,
he
just one
didn't
second,
claim
guys.
it,
Just
but
one
I'm just
second.
trying to
Just 1 second, guys. Please, can you let this videographer know, because it's going by on screen now in the live stream chat. So if you are watching now live on Nathan Oakley 1980, you can go and click on this link that's going by and let the videographer, in this case, Danny Falkner, know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So the channel is Answers in Genesis, and there's a link going by because we're going to be covering this in the next couple of minutes. So please let him know that we sent him to your channel, his channel, by leaving a nice comment and just informing him that we've covered this video. It's fresh to all of us. None of us have watched it. Also, shout out to Tom, who says, who says the ground is the bottom of the container? Oh, good point. You've got gases bubbling up through it. I mean, he's got a fair point, hasn't he? Thank you for the super chat, Tom. Anything else before we move on to Answers in Genesis?
Which he doesn't have.
Spectacular things I've experienced in my life, total solar eclipses would be at the top. We all seen photographs of eclipses. Forget them. They don't tell you what's going on.
So you're saying don't miss it.
Don't
Make
miss
sure
it.
you see this.
It'll be 20 years before there's another one in the U.S.
What part of the country will be able to see this upcoming eclipse?
Well, this eclipse is going to come out of Mexico, cross into Texas, cross some major cities like Dallas, as it does, and then move its way up. And so it's going to cross Indianapolis and other Dayton is going to hit Dayton and on up into northern Ohio.
Can we have a local shadow from something that's claimed to be 250,000 miles away or wherever it is? In the heliocentric model, why would it give you such a narrow, little, tiny dot of a shadow? Anybody?
I don't. But this is their big thing, though, right? Eclipses. This
I
is
was-
their big proof.
How is it their big thing? Beyond their begging the question orbital motion that's been derived from flat plane measurements, how is this useful at all? I don't really understand. How does this... I mean, within the preamble, did you hear him link this phenomenon to a globe Earth in any way? Because the moment he says orbits, I'll be like, where'd you get your orbits? By derivation of R, Keplerian orbits. Well, you need a flat plane to measure the stars' movements to come to that conclusion. You'll need a flat Earth to measure first, which obviously leaves you in a paradox if you're going to suggest that that means we've got an actual globe Earth in an orbital motion, because we haven't. The measurements that come to that inference were taken off a flat Earth. Absolutely not a globe Earth proof for orbital motion. That's a flat Earth proof.
Go into Canada, but also skirting the Northeast as well before it goes out into the Atlantic Ocean.
So if people don't live in that path of totality, should they bother driving to a place that's in that path?
Absolutely. Nothing compares to totality with what you see on the sun and what it does to people. I've been in partial eclipses before, and of course, the 2 total eclipses I've been to, and 2 annular eclipses. It got pretty exciting.
Okay. But for what purpose? I mean, yes, it's an exciting phenomenon, but without an explanation for why he would assert that that phenomenon is occurring, orbital motion, this doesn't serve any purpose.
As it got deep, but nothing compares to totality. You have to experience it to understand what I'm saying. If you...
Well, it looks cool. Okay, everybody here seen either a solar or lunar eclipse? I've seen both. Anybody else seen eclipses?
I was in the path of that totality.
Did you see it?
I'm curious as to has anybody been able to see this supposed solid object going in front of this other giant gas ball of light in this vacuum?
No.
Has anybody been able to see that before or after this event occurs?
No.
Does that
No, you
happen
don't
yet?
see anything transition in front of you. You see the effect of the sun doing what the sun does, but there's no occultation to observe taking
Right.
place. None.
Mm-hmm. That's
You-
funny
you-
because our opponents.
Sorry.
Go ahead for the chocolate if you
No,
want.
no, go ahead, man.
All right. So, and I heard you too, Neil. But it's funny because our opponents, we're always talking about how they just lie, right? And they grift. Gotta lie to globe, right? So specifically, this guy was saying we know it's the moon because we can watch it go in front. And so Mickey asked him, "Can you see it during the new moon?" And he was like, "Yeah." So, and we got a citation that was like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, I must have gotten it wrong then." Gotta lie to globe.
Okay, got
Like
65 people watching. Please smash the share button if you've not done so already. A very warm welcome to all of you who joined us live. And also, hopefully, one of the mods will put a link to Danny Falkner's video, Answers in Genesis, so you can let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me.
You do take the effort to go into it, you'll thank me later.
For a solar eclipse to happen, the moon has to pass in between the Earth and the sun, which happens every month. So why?
No. See, that notion has come from a derivation of Keplerian orbital motion, which utilizes flat Earth angle measurements to the luminaries. So no, it does not infer that there's a Keplerian model used for predicting when Easter will be. No, that doesn't mean that we're actually part of a orbital motion that produces occultation of a moon we aren't seeing moving in front of the sun. Those motions are derived from flat Earth measurements. It is paradoxical to assert that the measurements of a flat Earth, when used in a model that suggests that the radial value measured flat gives you a spherical shaped Earth to put in motion around the sun, to have the moon in motion around the Earth, and occultation of the three. No, doesn't mean that.
Why don't we see an eclipse every month?
The phase when the moon passes between the Earth and the sun is called new moon, and it happens every, 29 and a half days, what we call the synodic period or synodic month. But the moon's orbit is tilted by just, I think, 5.1 degrees from the Earth's orbit around the sun.
No, 5.1 degrees is a measurement taken off a flat Earth. So to say that it's a, motion of the rotation when you're talking about the degree change? Again, no. You're not measuring anything from hell. Ergo, the measurement does actually take place from the surface and is a degree change. All of these orbital motions have a prerequisite flat Earth at their measurement.
So the center of it can be as much as 5.1 degrees above where it needs to be. When it's
Sorry, degrees as in what? Flat Earth angle measurements there, Danny? You keep slipping, using flat Earth understandings and measurements to describe motions in an ellipse and an orbit? Definitely not.
at new moon. And since the sun and the moon are only half degree across, well, most months it totally misses. And there are 2 periods a year for about a month where we have the nodes lined up with the direction to the sun.
Nodes also described on a flat plane. All of these concepts are flat earth concepts, Danny. Have you not looked at them? Oh, of course you have. You told the whole congregation about how they work in hell on a flat plane, didn't you, Danny?
So when there's a new moon, and there will be a new moon, you'll have at least 2 solar eclipses a year, typically 3 or 4, but they generally would be partial for the whole Earth, not total.
Yeah, so over time, that ephemeris, those...
What they just showed was an occultation in a CGI image. That isn't what you get to see. That whole little CGI rendering that we just got, that was a complete lie. And that is not what we see.
orbital parameters of the moon have gotten more precise, more accurate, and so because of that, we're able to predict these eclipses with more.
Predict, as in, no. As in, we've observed the cycles and noted them with respect to how they operate on a flat plane. He described nodes earlier, didn't he? Yeah, that's a flat Earth prerequisite. Yeah, Danny knows because he's telling a whole group of Christians how you do these things from hell off a flat plane.
More accuracy. And also just think about from the biblical worldview, God upholds the universe by the word of his power. He does it so we can have that consistent repeatability.
So why do you defy the words of Genesis then? If we uphold the words, well, surely the words of Genesis would mean something. Not to Danny, eh? No, this is all working from hell.
Over and over again. So it's a biblical worldview that gives us that basis for science, for being able to predict that the future will be like the past.
The neat thing.
What? The biblical worldview gives us a science that says how the future can be like the past. Is that not just a mix of Orwellian category errors? What science is this, my son? What? Hello? I like your jargon, but it doesn't mean much.
It sounds like he's just observing pattern recognition.
Yeah.
Basically telling you nothing's going to change. It's all a cycle. But I don't know how that's supposed to be, being that we're flying around in this vacuum in all how many vectors are we supposed to be moving at the same time and nothing changes? Okay. Great story.
To claim it's a consistent cycle is to state there is no Genesis. Piece of crap.
The thing is about the Earth's moon, the sun is 400 times larger than the
Really? So when you say 400 times larger, that scaling value is given you by Kepler. And Huygens gave you a notion that Venus, when transiting the Sun in a heliocentric motion derived from flat plane measurements, was the same as Earth's radius. And Earth's radius was measured by way of the minimum elevation angle measurement off a flat plane to Polaris. So, your scale for your giant sun has come from a bastardization of a flat Earth measurement, superimposed onto Venus and utilizing a Keplerian motion of orbit. So, no, definitely not. Your scales have come from flat Earth measurements, my friend. Obviously, you were unaware of that, but it completely paradoxically destroys the notion that we've got a scaling value for spheres in the distant sky, because Earth as a sphere has come from a flat plane measurement of Polaris.
The moon is, but the sun's also 400 times farther away.
No, it isn't. Just preaching Keplerian doctrine.
Which means that those 400 just compensate, so they're both about the same size, a half a degree, and the moon usually will just barely cover up the sun, making, number one, very spectacular eclipses and very rare eclipses.
You don't know that the moon occults the sun. We don't see that occurring. Making it up. That is not what we observe.
One happens somewhere in the world about every year and a half, but usually it's the middle of Antarctica or in Siberia or, Pacific Ocean. I've read several times that on average, for a given location on the Earth, there is a total solar eclipse about every 4 centuries. Now, maybe thousands of years between, or it might just be a few years between, but that's the average. They're very rare and very spectacular, and this is the only planet which it matters because it's
Other than when he got to the word planet, I agreed with everything in that statement.
the only planet which there are beings like us to appreciate that fact. That's what I mean by God being an engineer, to engineer how this happens, and also to be an artist.
It shows that uniqueness that we have on the Earth and being the only planet, and just shows God's design that we have. And there aren't Martians out there that are appreciating eclipses. It's just us here on Earth.
The Earth is...
How do you know? There could potentially be, based on your heliocentric belief. Meanwhile, we've got a parallel sky and ground situation. That's how God's handiwork actually is measured and used to navigate the ground. It's got sod all to do with Earth as an expanding universe. Go ahead.
And also, meanwhile, we have it. We appreciate eclipses so much that we can appreciate eclipses that aren't even supposed to happen, and we call them the impossible eclipse. Meanwhile, they're happening, but don't worry about that. Let's not talk about that.
Okay, so the impossible eclipse, as Chocolate's just referred to, is a Seleninian eclipse, which is where you have both the sun and moon above the horizon. So rather than it being a situation where one physical spherical body in a motion derived from flat Earth measurements is claimed to be occulting the other, they aren't! But we still get the eclipse!
What a coincidence.
So they just chalk that up to impossibility. 73 people watching. Someone's obviously smashed the share button. Thank you very much to all of you who smashed the share button. A very warm welcome to all of you who followed those share links that my live audience have sent out there. Really appreciate it. Please share the show if you've not done so already. Also, I'll do my call to action in regards to Danny Falkner at Answers in Genesis channel. Please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a nice message. The idea being that obviously with us sending our meagre audience to Danny Falkner to help him along in the algorithm with chat comments and likes and so on and so forth, we would hope that he would do the same for us were he to respond to this video and put a link to the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel in his video, helping us along in the algorithmic love that we so desire but do not receive from YouTube. So please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me.
Nathan, isn't Danny Falkner in the chat usually listening? I mean,
yes, the reason this has come to fruition is because Danny seems to follow the show around, or has done for the last few days. So, for whatever reason, somebody, Mush in this case, pointed out that he had recently done a video on the eclipse, and would we like to respond to it? Yes, we would, and yes, we are.
Special, and we are special, and God, I think, has treated us with this.
Yeah. So speaking of that, how do you secular scientists explain?
What has he got to back that evidence? I think that the eclipse is just like a little treat from God. I mean, everything's a little treat from God in one respect, but why is this specifically a little treat from God? Was that just a baseless assertion he's just decided to throw in there?
It's making me sick.
Well, that guy said that he was a secular scientist. I'd like for Danny to post any hypothesis he has experimented, validated through experiment.
He hasn't.
And remember, without experiment, it's not science.
Danny's
So
not
he's
a
not a
scientist.
scientist.
Go on, John.
I was saying, so he's not a scientist.
No.
He's a pseudoscientist.
Yes.
Phenomena of solar eclipses on Earth.
Coincidence.
Just
that's it. Just the way it happened to turn out to be. And
Just
that's,
given-
to me, that's not very satisfying.
yeah,
say
given their
that?
naturalism.
Did I just say what a coincidence?
You just said it's a coincidence, yeah. I mean, in terms of scientific validity that you could offer, given that was the last thing they contextualized this discussion with, would be to observe the natural phenomena and then suppose a cause for the effect, and then put it through the hypothesis construction by adding a null. That is to say that your presumed cause of that effect won't cause the effect. So you've got two logical statements that can't hold simultaneously true. A causing B, B being the phenomena of the eclipse in this instance, and A not causing B. Well, once you've got those two statements, you've got a scientific prediction, aka hypothesis, and you can vary that which you assume causes the effect, in this case of eclipses, to see if you can induce the effect or not. And if you don't induce the effect, you validate your null, furthering the advancement of the understanding brought forth from science. An empirical outcome where your suppositional presumed cause of the effect of, in this case, eclipses, did not cause eclipses. So you proved that to not cause it. That's science. Danny, well, I was just chalking up to coincidence. Oh, really? Did you put it through a hypothesis construction test yet? That would be an experiment? No, you did not. But you'll just chalk it down to coincidence. What a wonderful scientific method you follow, Danny. How enlightening.
I don't think you understand, Nathan, how strong these eclipses are. This is what keeps people bound in heliocentrism. This is like their law. When this happens, you can't tell anybody anything about flat Earth.
Because? How does this in any way validate a sphere Earth?
Sky?
Because it's what's happening. Look.
In the sky.
Yeah.
Right. What you're
What
saying
does that have
is,
to do with the ground that I'm standing on?
it doesn't. He's saying that
Doesn't
they only
matter.
they affirm the consequent. If eclipses, then sphere Earth. Sphere Earth. Because eclipses. That's basically the logic behind this, right, Neil?
No, the whole heliocentrism makes sense to them now. So we must be a planet orbiting like they say, because look, the moon just went in front of the sun.
Except in the Selenian
Right.
eclipse
Did it?
example where it doesn't. But we'll just ignore that.
Even in the example that it does it?
Well, the impossible eclipse.
Again, sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
I was going to say, they're talking about the angle of light as it is striking celestial objects to block other celestial objects. Where are they getting these angles to assert them?
Flat Earth. The whole model and the whole system's based on flat Earth angle measurements, including the eclipse description. It's all orbital motion. It's all derived from R. It's all based on angle measurements to stars off a flat plane. There are no exceptions. All of these examples that you say globers hang their hat on, what about them? Do they know how orbits are made? Do they know what was measured to give them orbits? If they don't, then they don't realise that the orbits require a flat Earth to measure in the first instance. What's that? Well, if it's measured off a flat Earth, it must be a sphere. No, definitely not.
Say, Nathan,
Yes?
is that demonstration of a sphere casting a shadow on another sphere, is that somewhere to be given the image of? Like maybe on account, I say this on account of 2015, I was kind of held back for a while because I thought I saw Earth's shadow cast on the moon in Iowa, and it looked to me to be, having a curved shape to it. So I thought, I obviously lights in the sky are not what we stand on. However, it kind of screwed me up for a while. And I'm just wondering, because had I seen that demonstration, and I know it's a false comparison, but for a new person, they kind of haven't gotten that far down the road. So maybe somebody's, boyfriend or girlfriend is here watching with that person, and they're trying to explain, the problem. But if we had that image from time to time. Maybe that would help new people. Just a thought.
I don't think so. I honestly don't think so, because we are in the dark as much about the phenomena of eclipses as they are. The fact that they've taken flat Earth measurements, put them into an orbital motion, and then used occultation as their explanation for shadows and such like, A, doesn't mean it's true. B, means that I can challenge basis of their positive claim. But C, doesn't leave me in a position where I've got any further understanding or explanation for those phenomena. Nor would I even dare to offer one. So when you say offering up an example on the small scale for a heliocentric shadow, or, by contrast, offering up a small scale example of a flat Earth physical luminary body that's occulting things example, in my opinion, does nothing to offer anybody anything. In fact, quite the opposite.
See, Nathan, I want to put this out to be considered as well. You had training from your family and from the school you went to in logic. Americans had none. We have no clue until I met QE and until I looked up, fallacy 101, and we don't know these things. We had no experience working with them. We don't have that. They avoid that. They do, and I think it's by agenda. So we get to hear things that sound sciencey, and then we incorporate them into a belief structure. But we until I met you guys, I had no way to be able to identify a fallacy. It would go over my head. I didn't have any grasp on it. We didn't get any of that at a public school in America.
Yeah, but you know how to behave in a factory. You know when that bell goes, it's lunchtime, right?
Right. Yep.
Well, there we go.
Okay. I just thought I'd ask for that to be considered.
You can't have the masses going through the school system and being free-thinking, logical individuals. No, that won't stand. No, that's not very productive. What we need is productive little worker bees that can sit in a factory for 8 hours a day, know when break time, lunchtime, and home time comes, that they keep their clean shoes and they don't contaminate the factory, they don't turn up late, and if they do, they know that they're going to get in trouble. That's what we really need, and then we'll produce things. We'll be very productive. But if you're thinking about why the sun's doing things, you're not producing stuff. What's wrong with you, man?
If you think about it, the way we're communicating, if it wasn't for those worker bees and them not spending their time doing the things that we're talking about, we wouldn't be able to communicate without them.
Yeah.
That's facts.
As a matter of fact, I worked on a time for a company called ADC Telecommunications, and we built the broadband networks. They hadn't really even been, because it was Clinton's federal dollars he put towards the Digital Communications Act that built a lot of the networks that we get this ability to be on the internet. Yeah, so I was directly involved. I was in the tool room building molds and stuff.
Yes, of course. Like, we appreciate hard work and all of that. I just want to make clear that unlike in feudal times and what people believe, you don't have to be a worker bee forever. But it would be nice to put in that time with society when you're young. But forever? And then and then it's a repeat cycle, and then your dad's dad was that's not necessary, but we do appreciate the process. Yes.
Well, school isn't there to enlighten people or get them to be thinking better or get them to be thinking at all. Can you regurgitate this information we have given you? If you can, then you will be successful. Regurgitation, that's what school wants you to be able to do.
Worker bees. We're worker bees.
Your parents are there to teach you those things.
Yeah. Or if your parents are too busy and you've got enough money, a private school will teach you those things. In a very small class with other privileged children. But they don't want the masses to be that way. They don't want the masses to be enlightened, do they? Kept under control and kept productive.
Could you imagine someone who contemplates the nature of existence pushing a button repeatedly for an 8-hour day and being fulfilled?
No. But paychecks, girls in bikinis, the dream of the Lamborghini, those sorts of things can keep you going while you're pushing a button for at least 8 hours. Correct? The American dream.
Right. Don't waste your time thinking about this stuff. We got people for that. But the people that are supposed to be doing that, they aren't. And that's what we need to hold them to account now.
Well, if the common man would unite, we would end this problem. 1, 2, 3. With a little bloodshed, of course.
Well, we don't need to get down in the mouth about it. You know, here you are now, Lumpy. And it's because you've had a yearning to presumably expand your cognition and logical abilities, as you put it.
Yeah, I'd super appreciate it. If I wasn't unemployed and having financial problems, I'd be continuing to support, the FED and QE, and I will in the future. But yeah, I'm really grateful. Making up is got a lot of value in my mind. Not thinking up might be down. That stuff is garbage, and I'm really grateful I don't have that in my head. To be honest, that's a true statement.
Fair enough. The relinquishment of gravity has obviously helped you. Sorry to hear you're unemployed at the moment. I can relate.
Antipodal, the antipodal thing, and just relinquishment of false conclusions, and being able to challenge anything that's coming to me now. I didn't have that. I didn't have it, and it wasn't hard for me to learn. And I'm humbled that I had to be told. But everything I've learned in this process had to be told to me. That was just extremely humbling. But yeah, thanks, Nathan, and thanks, Huey.
I think that brings
panel.
us quite nicely back onto the outrage that John expressed in the pre-show with respect to Danny, because there's a certain understanding about what you will receive when you walk into a church. Nourishment mentally, you would hope, spiritually, you'd expect, but to be deceived is kind of something ruining the sacrosanct understanding. I hope I've got the right terminology that you have when you walk into that sort of building. Now, I know it's not the building that represents the church, and hopefully Christians will appreciate me saying that, but it is still, in this context at least, representative of what should or would hopefully take place within that building and that community. And if it isn't, then if not for the building and if not for the incorrect information that's being provided, what in that circumstance is actually Christian at all? I ask myself, and I scratch my head going, I don't really know. Other than the odd mention of God when talking about angles from hell, I can't really think of how this is in any way Christian. But maybe that's part of John's protestations that you can hear in the pre-show if you're a member after this is published, or in a couple of days' time if you're not. Subscribe to my second channel.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people, they have excuses. Danny Falkner has no excuse now. Many people have broken down flat earth to him. He's not ignorant, and he still goes to these churches and these meetings and gets paid to give his little lectures. So it's all about money.
Beliefs, that's basically all they got, right? It's safe to look at the eclipse.
Who said that? Well, you're supposed to wear these special glasses that they have, and I ordered a bunch of these. And you need to go to a reputable dealer of these, and the special kind of filter. What? I can't read it. Would you read it?
Yeah, make sure you get one of the filters. It has to have an ISO 12312-2. That's the requirement.
Right. 3 things you need to worry about. Number 1 is blocking out all the visible light. And these things, I can't see a thing through them.
I can't either.
But with the sun, you can. I've tested these out already. I've used them, of course, at the annular eclipse. 2 other things is that not all filters that can block out the visible light will block out the ultraviolet and the infrared.
Yes.
To his credit, at least he's giving bloody good advice. If you're going to talk about this, at least spare people their eyesight, right? And tell them how they should be doing it, rather than some numpty going out and just staring at the sun when this happens and going, oh my God, my eyes. But there we go. Yeah, good advice.
Yeah, so welding glasses.
I don't recommend that because the most dense one they have, I forget the number, it's for arc welding. It will be dim enough that you can see, but the problem is it may allow ultraviolet through, and you won't feel that. You won't have a sensation like a little visible light, but it can do damage. So I recommend that you go with these kind of glasses. Find a reputable dealer that will handle these. It's very dangerous to look at the partial phases without protective filters like this.
Why have we got so much CGI? This irks me. There's loads of images of eclipses. You don't need this.
But when totality comes,
you can take them off.
They come off. I'll have somebody designated to do a countdown for us to tell us, okay, 3, 2, 1, look. And then at the end, you have a 1 minute warning, 30-second countdown to 0. Don't look anymore, because it's quite dangerous to look at the little tiny bit of the photosphere coming through.
To recap, during the partial phases, wear those glasses. During totality, make sure you take them off.
Yep.
And then as we go into the partial phases again, put on those glasses.
But eclipses are party events. You won't be wearing your
There's loads of times you can look at the sun. I mean, yes, this is all true for eclipses, but towards the end of the day, the amount of times I spend just staring at the sun with my kids because it's pretty and you can. You know, there's certain points in the day where it is in no way damaging your eyes to stare at the sun directly at it. I've done it countless times. So this notion that the sun's going to burn your retinas out, yeah, maybe it's peak during the midday sun. And yeah, good chance that's going to be around about the time you're going to get these eclipses. In this instance, yeah, the sun is going to be very, very strong. But that doesn't mean that you just can't blanch, can't look at the sun because of these light waves that are coming to you. Like,
I'm looking right at it.
Yeah.
If it passes me, I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
It depends on the circumstances. Obviously, you go by how it feels. If you glance at it and go, ow, then probably not a good idea, right? But if you look at it and go, oh, wow, look how pretty the sun is. And then you go, hey, Eleanor, look at the sun, look how pretty it is. Oh, yeah, it's really pretty. Yeah, you can really make out the shape of it. Yeah, you can, yeah. Now, at that point, if it ain't hurting your eyes, what difference does it make?
Right, that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to stare at it for 5 minutes. I'm going to glance up and look and see.
Anyway.
Glasses all the time. You'll put them on, look up there, take them off, put them up again, just check the progress. Yeah. It'll be a party atmosphere. I would suggest during totality, the binoculars would help. It will magnify what you see. The corona is huge. It's several degrees across, and telescopes just aren't wide enough to capture that, usually. I don't recommend telescopes unless you have a very wide field on them. And be sure you know how to use them. It's not the time during totality to try to figure out how to use the telescope.
Yeah. So you mentioned a little bit earlier about some of the conditions that we can expect during totality, like, the deep twilight, the dusk. What are some other conditions we can expect?
Well, as you approach totality, you'll notice it'll get dimmer. Outdoor lighting with light sensors on them, they will come on. If there are any insects out there, they will start doing their business. Birds, the daytime birds will start to go roost. Some night animals will come out. We saw a bat in 2017.
I gotta agree, it is a fairly bizarre experience. I remember doing it as a kid, and we were all out in the playground when the eclipse happened. And as he describes, it's like night and day kind of meet. It's weird. Anybody else experienced an eclipse? Yeah? Anyone else got any personal experience of one? No? Fair enough.
A few minutes before totality.
Sorry, I was gonna say, the last one that we had, I was able to see it. Whatever it is that's going on there, it's a hell of a thing to witness.
When was that last one, Chocolate?
I don't. It was
2016 or something? Because I remember looking at it too.
I don't know if it was 2016. I can't remember when it was. It was at least 5 years ago because I was still in New York. So
yeah, I was in New York too at the time.
It was 2017.
2017.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys got.
I was working in the
you
theater,
guys got it. We
looking
didn't.
up at it.
We didn't get it here. But yes, I do recall.
Yeah, I pulled out the glasses and all that, and like it kind of just puts you in a trance. It's kind of crazy. At the same time, the flat Earth head in me was just kept saying, like, "What are so like where the hell like that's supposed to be the moon?" You know, like I was trying to get out of that and just enjoy the moment, but I spent the whole morning because I knew it was coming, so I spent the whole morning outside. Like I even started to get in trouble at work because I spent so much time outside just trying to see can I actually see the moon anywhere before this happens.
No, you cannot.
And I couldn't, and
Yeah,
I
I
couldn't.
had no luck either.
And
I
it's
was
not like
work-
I had any equipment or any special camera or anything. I just wanted to see. Can I just see it? This is supposed to be a solid object that's supposed to be occulting this giant light. So I should, at some point, be able to see it. And I couldn't.
Yeah, and I was ridiculed during that day. Yeah, some flat Earth. I was working in the theaters, and what I was getting told at the time was, "Oh, we gotta hear these English guys all day," because I had flat Earth debate on my radio, my speaker. So they were mocking me during the day because, it happened. Therefore, sphere.
OBE line says, witnessing an eclipse is like watching God perform a magic trick.
Yeah, something like that. It's kind of crazy.
Oh, it's just a circuit of the sun and a circuit of the moon. They make their circuits, and these things happen.
I'm glad you cleared that up for us, Neil.
No problem.
They came out for a while. We were in a horse pasture in 2017, and I didn't really notice what they were doing as totality approach, but as totality ended, they started running around and winnowing. It's like, I guess, morning routine. They're excited about the new day or something. Also, another thing to look for is you can put a white sheet of some sort, maybe a piece of poster board, something big, hopefully, on the ground. And if it's clear, really clear that day, you'll see these shadow bands. And they've been described like snakes going across the ground. There are these bands about this wide, and they move about that fast, and they move in the direction of the shadows moving. It starts out a few minutes before and then after totality.
Hey, I didn't know that. Did anybody else know that? Props, Danny. I didn't know that.
I must confess, the two total eclipses I went to, I did not see shadow bands. We looked for them. I think the problem was we had some thin clouds.
Which planets are we going to be able to see?
Yeah, well, the Venus and Jupiter will be the big showstoppers. Venus will be the brightest star in the sky that day during totality. It will be to the right of the sun, and Jupiter will be to the left of the sun. They'll be easy to spot because they're so bright. Jupiter's the second brightest star.
It has to be a clear sky, right? So make sure people go out and find a spot that's going to be clear, not as many clouds.
This eclipse will also occur in a part of the sky where there aren't a lot of bright stars.
To be fair, he's not giving us a great deal of heliocentrism to get our teeth into, is he? Just describing things as is, how you'd observe them, which is kind of fair enough, really, isn't it? From my point of view, I've got nothing to moan about.
Yeah, it's not like we see an eclipse therefore we live on a globe. No, that even if you go along with all their assumptions and their biases, it still doesn't prove what you're standing on.
No.
I wish I had the angle measurements back then. I wish I know what I know now back then.
Already checked out the location. Orion will be off to the left quite a bit. And there are a bunch of bright stars associated with Orion. People down in Texas, it's going to be a little tougher. They're going to be real low in the sky, but for us, it's going to be higher in the sky. So I'm going to be looking for Orion as well. I saw it in 2017. I saw Orion very nicely.
So circling back to the start of our conversation, this moment of totality really is quite a moving experience, and it can be a spiritual one as well. So how do these events draw you closer to God?
As I said, it tells me that God's both an engineer and an artist. I told you that many people celebrate by shouting and singing and doing all sorts of things. And people that know me well are shocked to learn that, to me, I'm dumbstruck.
The few moments where Danny's not talking.
I don't say anything. We can sell tickets for that. If you're in tune to God, then you see his handiwork here. And to me, it's a very spiritual sort of thing. And it should.
Okay, why?
Oh, one thing he said was true. He's dumbstruck. I believe the dumb part.
Because there's something wrong with you if you're not moved by it.
Especially as a Christian, right? And like we were talking about. And so what purpose do you think God had in mind when he was designing these beautiful solar eclipses for us?
Well, again, I love Psalm 19:1. I graduated from Christian high school, and I put Psalm 19:1. They wanted a verse for each of us in the yearbook. Put that in there, and they probably wondered at the time, why? That's a weird verse. But then they...
Heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork. Rakia in Hebrew.
No. No.
The King James, from what we understood in the pre-show, the King James describes it as sky. Originally, Rakia also can be described as firmament.
The firmament showeth his handiwork, not the sky, the firmament.
They found out
I
became
have a question.
Go ahead, Limpy.
Will people, where it is dark out, be able to see Jupiter and Venus, while we're able to see Jupiter and Venus when a ball Earth should be in the way? I'm curious. Do we have any contacts of people that would be in a dark area of Earth, and if they can see them?
So would the flat Earth angle measurements that we reify into a celestial sphere get the angles for these celestial movements, place a ball Earth in the way of Jupiter?
That's his question, yes.
Not actually ball. Okay, go ahead.
I just, that's been bugging me since Danny said that you'd be able to see Jupiter in the sky. Just thinking about it from a heliocentric point of view, what is going off? Is your orbit in the sun? I'm not prepared to make a claim. It's just running around my head after he said that. How does that work in a heliocentric thing? And I think that's what's being said from Discord. There's somebody else out there that is at a dark point where the sun should still be. Can they see Jupiter? Because the sun should still be between the two bodies, shouldn't it? It's an interesting thing.
It'd be a still man. It would be if and this then that sort of scenario in my mind anyway. I'm not the know-it-all. That's why we all work together.
John's already descended it into absurdity, and Adam has ignored him, but that's fine. Within the heliocentric motions of a flat plane measurement, reifying Earth into a radial sphere value with the orbital motion of Kepler and us moving around the sun, in that quasi-model, is the sun occulting our view of Jupiter at the point where we're in daytime in that motion, and we have a claim to be occultation of the sun, plunging us into darkness with the ability to see Jupiter. Now, without an exemplary knowledge of orbital motion in this particular time frame, I can't on the spot say, yeah, sun should be in the way of Jupiter, Adam, shouldn't work in a heliocentric model, because I, number one, wouldn't care based on what John's already gone through, what the motions reified from flat Earth measurements. Like, that matters if it works orbitally or not. But even if you take that paradigm and step right into it and believe you stood on a sphere in an orbital motion, would it functionally work or not? Adam would have to look into it, and I'm sure he will, because he's now, what was the word you used, perplexed or something, Adam? Intrigued?
Yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm confused. Is the question, why is it that we're able to see Venus during this eclipse, supposedly?
Venus
being that.
Well, there's going to be where it's dark on Earth out, they're going to be seeing stars now, or lights in the sky, right? And if they're above us, here where it's light out, except for the eclipse occurs, shouldn't there be a ball Earth in the way if it's, say, the other side of Earth, it's dark, right? And if they can see Venus or Jupiter, and they're side, to the right and to the left of the sun, according to Danny. Now, if someone's in Indonesia or something above the equator, right, and on the other side of what would be the ball Earth, it would be a still man to present this as an impossibility. I know we're not into this. Well, Yeah, so I don't want to be coming up
No,
with
good summary. Right,
based on
hold on. We've got
globe.
80 people watching. I want John to summarise the absurdity of it first. Thank you, Lumpy, and Adam will look into it in spite of me suggesting that it gets descended into absurdity again by John. Go ahead, John.
Right. If we ignore the special pleading fallacy and allow people to, it's so biggie, it's flatty. If we ignore that special pleading and we allow them to move forward on the premise that they don't know what they do know to assert a heliocentric worldview, I think your idea of scaling is off because you become a tiny speck in a solar system from that worldview. So you're not really going to be occulting much unless it's really close to you.
It'd be the sun that was occulting it because we're on the wrong side of it. Maybe. Anyway, we'll plod on with the rest of this video.
It made perfect sense. The heavens do declare God's glory, and this is echoed in Romans 1, 19 and 20, where it says that the world around us tells us there's a creator, and it's very powerful, so that men are without excuse. And so when I see something...
But yeah, you're into a worldview that says nature created it all, Danny. The heliocentric orbital motion has Lemaitre's ideas of a Big Bang at its heart. That's its origin story. So, you're decrying the words of God in that regard, because you're decrying his very creation by adhering to heliocentrism. I don't really understand you, Danny. This makes no sense to me.
Something like this, I see the glory of God. I see...
There you go, Neil.
Let me jump in quick.
Sorry. I don't know why he's glorifying God.
Oh, here we go.
Because...
White knight for Danny. Go ahead, you there, Christ, righteous.
Well, I'm just going to give my opinion. I'm not going to say what I've noticed. Before I was into heliocentrism, right? I mean, before into FE, and I believed in the heliocentric model. I didn't believe in evolution. I didn't believe in the Big Bang. I believed God did it all. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, but you can't. I did too. I was just like you, righteous, but in retrospect, you can't. It's a contradiction.
No, you don't. Not at all. You don't have to believe in the God of the Bible. You can believe in a creator perfectly happily and hold those views. Most people do.
No, what I'm saying, heliocentrism is a Big Bang, no God.
Yeah, but righteous to say he didn't believe in the Big Bang. So what he believed in was the heliocentric model created by God, not by the story of the Big Bang that was told to him. Right?
See, as an artist, I see as an engineer, I see that he's cared for us very deeply. Far.
Go on, John.
For Adam's position, you don't, if you're not a Christian, which would be someone who believes in the God of the Bible, it would not be contradictory for you. But if you are a Christian, it is contradictory. Now, whether you recognize that, that's, like I said, that's the difference between ignorance and stupidity, really. If you don't recognize the contradiction, then you can't be held accountable for it because it's never been expressed and you've never thought about it. You can't be blamed for things that you don't know.
Alrighty.
Beyond just the aesthetics, of course, these sorts of things are telling us that there is a creator, and it behooves us to find out about him and the fact that he's a holy and righteous God, which we can't find by looking at a total solar eclipse. I wish we could, but we can't. But we can find that reading Scripture, and we find out in Scripture that God is...
Before we get to the Scripture bit, just the image. That's exactly what Brian can't find. Why is the CGI? Because he's got to show you it's the moon. If you look at that image of the total eclipse, they've painted the moon in. You don't see that.
You would think you would be able to, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's what you were staring at, putting you off from the awesome moment, because you are staring at it, trying to see the moon, and it's not there. Brian's done it with photography and filter analysis, and you just can't make any of the moon out. There's no detail there in the occulting thing, if it is an occult.
And let's talk about before or after said event.
Yeah, it's on screen now. Look at that. They painted that. I mean, look at that, and then you can tell it's real
So
because it looks
pretty, though.
fake.
There's a slight delay for the audience.
And it behooves us to find out about him and the fact that he's a holy and righteous God, which we can't find by looking at a total solar eclipse. I wish we could, but we can't. But we can find that reading Scripture. And we find out in Scripture that God is holy, righteous, and we are not, because we're sinners. Sin brought into the world through the Garden of Eden, through the disobedience of Adam. And as the New Testament tells us, that sin entered the world by the disobedience of one man and death by sin. So we're all under that curse. But God, in his infinite love and mercy for us, provided a way of escape. He sent his only Son, Jesus Christ, into the world to be the perfect sacrifice for us. And so if people see this eclipse, they watch this program, and they don't come to grips with the fact and reality that sin separates us from God, there's only one way to...
Well, how would they? Even by your own description moments earlier, there's no connection for you to actually draw.
Bridge that, then they have missed...
By bridge it, you mean just make a non sequitur conclusion from it? I mean, I'm not being objected to by any Christians on my panel when I say this, my friend.
The whole point. You know that, Rob? That is the whole point, is, are we right with God?
The creator who made the billions upon countless number of stars, he thinks about us. He thinks about us, creatures made in his image, and he provided a way of salvation for us.
Is it just me, or is these ham-handed non sequiturs not hitting it home or hitting it out of the park for anyone else? Is it just me? Because millions of stars, God cares for you. Really? Oh, okay. Because millions of blades of grass, Jesus died for your sins. What? I mean, is it just me, or are these just complete non sequiturs?
Us here on Earth, the one that named all.
It kind of undermines him a little bit, that because in the non sequitur, he's saying, well, if there's other things you're unsure about, reference the Bible, reference Scripture to give you solace. You can reference the Bible for other things to do with descriptions about what the things are, where they are, what shape they are, what nature they have. But he ignores them.
We've only got a few seconds left, so we'll just get through it.
All the stars, we don't have to worry that he's going to forget about his children.
That's it. Flat Earth version of the eclipse on screen now.
What a joke.
Hey, maybe Flat Arthur. He would be in an area that would be dark out at that time. Flat Arthur. He lives in India, right? I think he was commenting on the India moon landing and how people were commenting about it on a show with QE a couple months ago or something. Is that individual somewhere where maybe it'd be dark out and people have connection to him?
Send Arthur a message, yeah. Or dope.
Just want to reiterate how dope the Indian moon landing was. Yes.
Yes, to answer your question, yes, Flat Arthur does periodically come, and he's probably listening right now. Or will be listening to the show at some stage. 84 people watching.
Yeah.
Please share the show. Share it with
Smash
Flat
that
Arthur.
share button. This show's the greatest show on earth. Chocolate, how dare you say that? The Indians landed on the moon. You can't take that away from them. It's a big accomplishment. Did you
Yeah, we
see the
can.
video?
It's a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. If they travelled via a sky vacuum to get to the moon, then the gas that we are currently breathing at high pressure would vacate the area that we are currently in into the sky vacuum they claim to travel in, leaving us with no gas pressure to breathe. We'd all be dead.
Now, what if there was a constant flow of gas coming from the ground constantly
You
going?
must have not seen how fresh to death their lunar lander was. All gold foiled out. Like, I mean, it was so first. I mean, how can you beat that, man? I'm sorry. I try not to laugh.
Thanks, Chocolate. I busted up. That was funny.
Go on, whoever it was from Discord. Then John.
I was just saying thanks, Chocolate. I had a good laugh.
Anytime, brother. Like I said yesterday, everybody needs a good laugh, man. Go check that out.
Who's next? There's another country in line. Who is that country?
Hold on, before we move
Let's
on.
go next.
I want
Peru?
John to get the last word on this.
Yeah, I was going to say that angle or that picture with the little line on the moon as a shadow. It's actually what heliocentrists believe from the angle measurements they took. They put it into a suppositional statement built around the idea of orbital mechanics they took from those flat plane measurements. And they say, well, if Earth's flat, it would look like this according to the measurements. But the measurements required it to be flat. So it's their belief that they're actually fighting against when they put us in that straw man. It's their belief, not ours.
Yeah, their belief and reification of R-based flat Earth measurements into orbital motion to then take the orbital motion of a sphere Earth and project it as a flat pancake in the orbital motion that was derived from the flat Earth measurements. The level of absurdity to jump through those hoops to assert that there's a penny-shaped flat shadow on the moon is quite something. I agree. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming Streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Of course, another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!